Today I'm going to be presenting on motivational and behavioral factors as predictors of academic performance. I'm going to start off my presentation by first defining to you what academic performance is. Academic performance can be defined as how well students perform on various academic-related tasks over a certain period of time. Academic performance is often measured in terms of grade point average or GPA. The common name for academic performance is school achievement, academic achievement, and school performance. Studying academic performance is important for many reasons. One being that academic performance is a phenomenon that is valued worldwide. Students with higher GPAs are more likely to get selected for jobs. In these jobs, they usually receive higher pay, and they also perform better at their job and they are better workers than others. Past research has found that studying these variables that impact or influence academic performance contribute to educational improvement. What this means is that knowing what impacts GPA or what predicts it or what influences it allows educators and allows people that are in charge of school systems to make reforms so that the students within their school systems can be more successful. More specifically, psychosocial and non-cognitive factors have been found to be highly predictive of post-secondary student success. Student motivation towards learning can influence many things, including retention and underachievement, but especially achievement. Goal orientation is what I use in my survey to measure motivation. Goal orientation is why students do their academic work, or why students go to school, or what causes them to come to class, or why am I in college, or answers questions such as that. Mastery goal orientation can be viewed upon an axis from mastery goal orientation to performance goal orientation. Mastery goal orientation can be defined. Mastery goal orientation is adopted by students who want to do well on these tests because they want to understand what's going on, they want to learn, and they are curious about the certain subject that they're studying. Students who adopt the performance goal orientation are concerned with how others view them or being viewed as competitive. And within the performance goal orientation, there's an axis that goes from performance approach, which these students who adopt the performance approach goal orientation want to be viewed as good in the eyes of others. And then on the other end of this performance axis is the performance avoidance goal orientation. These students that adopt performance avoidance goal orientation want to just not be viewed bad. So research has found that the students with higher GPAs are students that usually have adopted a mastery goal orientation. Students with the performance approach goal orientation, the research isn't consistent as far as whether these are students with higher GPAs or whether they're students with lower GPAs. These students are concerned with being judged and they don't really want to put a lot of effort in their work. So sometimes these students are more likely to have favorable outcomes, but sometimes they're not. Performance avoidance goal orientation is associated with students who have maladaptive patterns of learning, such as cramming or not coming to class or not doing work at all. Motivation alone has been found to be a powerful source of learning, but especially when it's used in combination with metacognition or metacognitive awareness. Metacognitive awareness is a regulatory system that students use to help them understand and control their cognitive function. There are two components of metacognitive awareness, which is knowledge about cognition and regulation of cognition. Knowledge about cognition is what students know about what they know, so what they know about what's already in their brain. And regulation of cognition is how they use what they know. Meaningful education has been found to come from use of metacognitive skills, and strong metacognitive skills have been found to be positively associated with academic performance. While metacognition has been found to be a positive, powerful indicator of learning and higher academic performance, students reach optimal academic outcomes when they use learning strategies and study strategies as well. Study strategies are general designs, methods, and mental skills used to process data and solve problems. in my study, I looked at two categories of these study strategies or learning strategies, which are deep learning strategies, which these are um, strategies that individuals utilize when they want to understand and they're concerned about actually being competent in the material, versus surface learning strategies, which are strategies that students use just for memorizing and they don't really want to understand. Um, Students who utilize these surface learning strategies are usually not found to have good academic performance. They only want to pass with doing little to no work. So for my study, I wanted to look at I wanted to base my variables around this model. So I did motivation, and I use that as the first step because this is the initial engagement, like what causes students to do their work. And then I went on to behavior, what things students do to get to their academic performance, what things they do that impact that, what actual physical things are happening to that cause the outcome, which is academic performance. So the purpose of my study is to examine the ability of goal orientation, metacognitive awareness, and study strategy use to predict academic performance. So above the first model that you see, I showed you what I was looking at overall. And then the lower model that I showed is what specific variables I use to measure these. So I use goal orientation as motivation. And then I use metacognitive awareness as my first step of behavior. So when students are thinking about what they need to do in order to do their work or what practices they need to be aware of, and then study strategy use. So what things they actually do to prepare themselves for the work, and then obviously my outcome as academic performance. I have several hypotheses from this survey. For the study, I wanted to show you the bigger picture of my whole model. One important thing to note is that the solid lines predict significant positive predictors, and the broken lines are what I thought were going to be significant negative predictors. So the first hypothesis for my study was that mastery goal orientation would be a positive predictor of knowledge about cognition and regulation of cognition. My second hypothesis is that both components of metacognition, which is knowledge about cognition and regulation of cognition, is going to predict the study strategies: listening attentively, help seeking, problem solving, writing summaries, revising notes, and drawing maps. In my third hypothesis, I said that listening attentively, help seeking, problem solving, writing summaries, revising notes, drawing maps, reading and rereading were going to be predictors of academic performance. My fourth hypothesis, I said that performance avoidance goal orientation was going to be a negative predictor of knowledge about cognition and regulation of cognition. For my fifth hypothesis, I said that performance avoidance goal orientation was going to be a positive predictor of memorizing and cramming. And my last hypothesis for my study was that memorizing and cramming will be a negative predictor of academic performance. For this study, I'm going to utilize students in the introductory to biology classes here at Virginia State University. What I'm going to do is provide a Qualtrics link to my survey to their teachers and have the teachers distribute the survey to their students through the link in Blackboard. So for the measures that were included in my study, I had students self-report their grade point average to measure academic performance. They answered questions from the Patterns of Adaptive Learning Survey, or PALS, to measure their goal orientation. They answered questions from the Metacognitive Awareness Inventory to assess students' metacognitive awareness. And lastly, I included a like-for-like scale to measure use of individual study strategies. Because the study strategy scale that was included in my survey is not familiar, I wanted to include an example study strategy question. So for each study strategy, reading and rereading, drawing maps, listening attentively, cramming, memorizing, or whatever else there were, or completing practice problems, students will answer the same set of questions that I have listed here. My example question is reading and rereading. So students will answer, this is my most used strategy. I use this on a regular basis. This strategy helps me prepare well from class sessions. This strategy helps me prepare well for exams. This strategy helps me better understand complex issues. This strategy helps me make connections between concepts. And this strategy helps me address my misunderstandings. I'm going to analyze my data in my that I'm using for my study in 4 different ways. First, I'm going to use correlations because I want to see what relationships are, what basic relationships exist between academic performance and any of the other variables that I have included. I want to do an independent samples t-test to see what differences exist in students that I consider high GPA students and low GPA students in my variables. So I measure high GPA students as students that had at or above a 3.0, and students with the low GPA were students that had below a 3.0. I did a stepwise multiple regression using the backwards method to see which combination of my variables were the best predictors of academic performance. And then I did path analysis to test my overall hypotheses that I had in my that I had overall, and also to test the motivation influences behavior that will influence outcome to see how well that combination stuck together and what variables from each of these categories stuck together to make the best model of academic performance. Question?